My fiance announced at our rehearsal dinner, "You're so low class compared to my ex," in front of both our families. I stood up and said, "You're right, I'm also not a cheater." Then I left. Hey Reddit, let me paint the picture here because context matters. I, 29 male, work as a journeyman electrician pulling in about $78,000 a year. Solid money for hands-on work. I've got a decent apartment, a truck I maintain myself, and zero credit card debt. My parents are solid middle-class people. Dad's been running his own small plumbing business for 30 years. Mom's an office manager at a dental practice. They worked their tails off to put me through trade school, and I paid them back every dollar because that's what you do. My ex-fiancée, Tinsley, came from a different universe entirely. Her family has money. Not, we take nice vacations money, country club memberships, family attorney on retainer, vacation home in Hilton Head type money. Her father owns a commercial real estate development company, office parks, strip malls across 3 states. Her mom hasn't worked a day in her life but chairs the family's private foundation, which does community greening initiatives. Basically, rich people planting trees for photo ops while writing it off on their taxes. Very tasteful. Very concerned about root systems. Tinsley worked as a development coordinator at the foundation. Let's be real about how she got that position. We met 3 years ago through mutual friends at a party. She was different back then. The first time I met her parents, her mom looked at my truck like I'd driven up in a dumpster. Didn't say anything, just this little nose wrinkle. Then she launched into a 20-minute monologue about the landscaping renovation at their lake house. We're putting in native species. Very tasteful. You have to understand the root systems. Her dad talked about legacy and building something that lasts. Rich people love plant metaphor. Meanwhile, I'm the guy who actually builds and fixes real things. Her dad shook my hand and immediately asked what my 5-year trajectory was. Not nice to meet you. Straight to interrogating my career potential like I was interviewing for a position. That first dinner at their house was basically a tutorial in how to talk down to someone without technically being rude. Her mom kept refilling my glass while making comments about how refreshing it was to meet someone so grounded. That word, grounded. I'd hear it a lot over the next 3 years. Every time I disagreed with them about anything, every time I pushed back on a decision, I was being so grounded about it. Took me a while to realize it was their code word for stay in your lane. Her dad grilled me about my retirement contributions like he was auditing my life choices. At one point during dinner, I mispronounced charcuterie, and Tinsley corrected me in front of everyone. It's charcuterie, babe. The T is soft. She smiled while she said it, like she was helping. But the way her mom nodded, the way her sister smirked into her glass, told me everything I needed to know. That wasn't about pronunciation. That was about ranking me, establishing the hierarchy early. Tinsley just sat there smiling, occasionally touching my arm like I was a nervous rescue dog. She was trying to socialize. Her sister Piper showed up halfway through dessert. She asked Tinsley, not me Tinsley, where I trained. When Tinsley said trade school, Piper nodded slowly. That's nice. Very practical. I noticed their family attorney was there too. Not for dinner. He'd just stopped by to drop off some papers for her dad. But he lingered. Stayed for coffee. Watched. Every family event I attended over the next 3 years, he was somewhere nearby. Like a trained dog that smells boundaries. I smiled. Filed that away. Over the 3 years we dated, the comments stacked up. Little jabs disguised as compliments if you squinted hard enough. Her sister, when she saw me rewiring a light fixture, that's so charmingly blue collar. Her mom, when I mentioned overtime, it's wonderful that you're so industrious. Her dad, when I disagreed about the wedding venue, you're being very grounded about this, Mason. The worst one happened about 4 months before the wedding. Brunch with her parents and their friends. I ordered eggs and asked for hot sauce. Tinsley leaned over and said, loud enough for everyone, "Babe, they have a really nice hollandaise. Maybe try that instead?" Then she added, "He's still getting used to this kind of thing. Getting used to this kind of thing. Like enjoying hot sauce was a class deficiency. But we were solid, or so I thought, in love." The engagement happened 8 months before the wedding. I proposed at this little Italian place where we had our first date. Nothing fancy, but meaningful. She said yes. I was genuinely happy. Then the wedding planning started, and everything went sideways. Her parents insisted on paying for most of it. Turns out it was just their way of taking control. Every decision turned into this fake negotiation, where they'd ask my opinion and then do whatever they wanted anyway. I suggested cheaper vendors. They hired expensive ones. I wanted my uncle to officiate. They hired a retired federal judge her dad knew from the country club. Her mom loved assigning seats at events. "It's about flow," she'd say, moving names around on seating charts like she was placing chess pieces on a board. I watched her do it at her own birthday dinner. Put anyone she wanted to impress near herself, anyone she didn't near the kitchen. Power moves disguised as party planning. Every time, I got outvoted 3-1. Tinsley always sided with her parents. Babe, it's just easier this way. They're paying for it. I put up with it because I had a plan. Not because I was weak, because I was smart. See, I was 6 months away from my master electrician certification. Finish that, and my pay goes up big time. Already accepted into the program, already started coursework. If I blew up my personal life mid-program, my focus would be shot. Failed exam, delayed promotion, lost the wage bump. I wasn't handing them that collateral damage. So I waited. About 6 weeks before the wedding, their family attorney sent over a prenuptial agreement for review. I wasn't about to sign anything without my own legal counsel. So I called my lawyer. He read through it and called me back within an hour. This isn't a prenup, he said. It's a hostage note in Times New Roman. There's a moral turpitude clause, a reputation damage clause, and a disclosure requirement. You have to list any prior civil disputes, restraining orders, eviction actions. They're asking for your dirt. If they're asking for disclosures, we're verifying theirs. We pulled public civil dockets on everyone in that family. Not because I cared about her past, but because rich families love finding dirt and calling it concern. I wanted to know what skeletons they'd weaponize against me before they got the chance. One case popped up tied to Tinsley's old college address. Dismissed, sure, but the complaint was still in the online docket. Tinsley's roommate Chelsea had filed for unpaid rent and property damage after Tinsley broke the lease early. The docket listed Exhibit A through F, but didn't show them online. We went down to the clerk's office and pulled the physical file. Chelsea's statement laid out the whole mess. Screenshots attached as exhibits. Preston had been cheating with Chelsea behind Tinsley's back. When Tinsley found out, she blamed Chelsea, not Preston. Took Preston back anyway. He cheated again. The whole thing imploded when Tinsley trashed Chelsea's belongings and moved out mid-lease. The screenshots documented everything. Preston telling Chelsea it was just physical. Tinsley's texts calling Chelsea a scheming homewrecker, while simultaneously forgiving Preston. First cheating incident, sophomore year. Second, junior year, different girl. Third, senior year, back to Chelsea. 3 strikes and she still didn't leave him. She just destroyed her roommate's stuff instead. I read through those exhibits 3 times. The same guy her family still talked about like he was the one that got away. The same guy apparently invited to our rehearsal dinner. I sat with that information for 6 weeks. Didn't say anything. The past was the past. She'd chosen me. Whatever happened with Preston was ancient history. But I filed it away. Insurance policy. Just in case someone decided to test me. The rehearsal dinner was at Harrington's, this upscale restaurant her parents picked. Private room, 40 guests. More her family's crowd than mine. Her dad was footing the bill, which he reminded everyone of approximately 6 times before the appetizers arrived. I sat at the head table next to Tinsley, looking like I belonged in a room full of people who spent more on their watches than I made in a month. My parents were at the next table over. My dad in the nicest suit he owned, looking uncomfortable. He kept tugging at his collar like it was trying to strangle him. My mom smiling, but with that tight expression she gets when she's around people she doesn't trust. My brother Trent was next to them, doing his best to make small talk with some cousin of Tinsley's who looked like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. The seating chart had been a power move, just like her mom's birthday dinner. Her family dominated the front. Mine was pushed toward the back, near the service entrance. Even the head table put me between Tinsley and her maid of honor, with her parents directly across like supervisors at a performance review. Then I noticed who was sitting 3 tables back, right in the legacy section, with the old family friends and business associates. Preston, the ex. Seated close enough to be seen, far enough to technically avoid direct confrontation. I watched her dad walk over and introduce Preston to some business contact, hand on his shoulder, laughing at something Preston said. Like Preston was still family, like he still belonged there more than I did. I told Tinsley, he's not sitting in the same room as my parents. Fix it or I will. She barely glanced up from her phone. His dad and my dad golfed together. They're old family friends. It would have been weird not to invite him. Just ignore him. I'm not ignoring anything. I'm telling you this is a problem. She patted my arm. You're overthinking it, babe. You're being so grounded about this. There it was again. That word. I excused myself to use the restroom. On the way, I flagged down the wedding planner. My parents are seated in the back. Move them to table 2. She started to object about the seating chart. I said, do it or I'm walking out before the entrees. She did it. Then I texted my best man, Cormac. If I stand up during dinner, you stand up. No questions, no debate. His reply came back in about 30 seconds. Copy. I went back to the table. Tinsley didn't notice I'd been gone 7 minutes. I looked at Preston. He caught my eye and gave me this little nod. Not friendly. Entitled. The look guys get when they think being tall counts as a personality. Like he was checking out the replacement and finding me lacking. Wrong move, buddy. I know everything. Then, right before the toast started, her father stood up with a manila envelope. I noticed their family attorney was sitting 2 tables over. Not as a guest, as backup. Same guy who'd stopped by that first dinner 3 years ago. Same guy who was always somewhere nearby at every family event. Before we begin the festivities, her father announced, there's a small administrative matter. Mason, our family attorney, drew up a prenuptial agreement. Standard practice. Just need your signature before Saturday. He slid the envelope across the table. My full legal name printed on it in thick black marker. Inside, I could see sticky tabs marking where I was supposed to sign. Like they expected me to fold on command. 40 people watching. My parents' faces frozen. I noticed Tinsley's cousin had her phone out, recording, making a wedding week montage. The family loved documentation. I didn't touch the envelope. Sir, I'm an electrician. I don't sign live wires in public. I slid it back toward him like it was contaminated. Tinsley was supposed to mention the updates. He glanced at his daughter with a flicker of annoyance. Minor oversight, but it's fairly straightforward. Protects the family trust, the foundation assets, the real estate holdings, you understand. I understand you're ambushing me with legal documents at a rehearsal dinner instead of going through proper channels. That's not how I do business. His smile didn't reach his eyes. We're all family here. No need for formalities. The attorney casually slid his business card across the table toward me. Call me if you have questions. Like I was already the problem. Like needing time to review a legal document made me difficult. Cool. Then don't ambush me like I'm signing a lease renewal. I slid the envelope back further. My attorney will review it. If it's reasonable, we'll talk. Not tonight. Not like this. The silence was suffocating. Her dad's jaw tightened, but he recovered quickly. Of course. Take your time. He sat down. The envelope stayed on the table between us like evidence at a deposition. My dad's knuckles were white around his fork. My mom looked like she wanted to disappear. Tinsley wouldn't meet my eyes. Then the toast started. Her dad went first, gave a speech about welcoming me to the family, except it felt like terms and conditions. He talked about opportunities and building something together, and roots and legacy. Never mentioned love, just corporate merger energy. People clapped politely. I smiled and nodded like I was supposed to. My dad went next. He's not a big public speaker, gets nervous in front of crowds. But he stood up there and talked about how proud he was of me, how I'd always been a hard worker, how I'd put myself through trade school, how Tinsley made me happy, and that's all he ever wanted for his kids. My mom was tearing up. Tinsley squeezed my hand. For about 30 seconds, everything felt normal. Then Tinsley stood up. She stood there for a second, scanning the room like she was checking who was watching. Then she started telling the story of how we met, how she wasn't sure about me at first because I seemed too simple. But she'd given me a chance, and here we were. People chuckled at the appropriate moments. I smiled, thinking this was cute. She was being self-deprecating, relatable. Earlier that evening, she'd made 2 smaller comments. One about how sweet it was that I'd helped the caterers move a table. Another about how my dad's toast was so earnest, testing the waters, seeing if I'd push back. I hadn't. So she escalated. See, here's what I figured out later. She wasn't competing with Preston romantically anymore. She was competing with him socially. The low-class comment wasn't really about me. It was her flex to her crowd. Look how far down I'm willing to reach. Look how authentic I am. The wedding wasn't a marriage to her. It was a promotion review. Her parents were the real relationship she was committed to. She didn't hate my background. She hated that she couldn't control it. That's why she loved me when I was useful and attacked when I set boundaries. Then her expression changed. Got this faraway look, like she was remembering something specific. You know, she said, glancing over at Preston's table, my ex had this polish to him. Private school education. Knew which fork to use. Spoke French. Very refined. The room got quiet. Not silent yet, but that weird quiet where everyone can feel something bad is coming. I glanced at Preston. He was watching with this smug little smile, like he knew exactly where this was going. But he was all surface. She laughed, and a few people chuckled nervously. My fiancé here. He's real. Authentic. She turned to look at me, and what I saw in her eyes wasn't love. It was something else. Something that had been hiding there the whole time. Even if he is pretty low class compared to someone like that, the room didn't go silent like in movies. It went wrong in tiny steps. Someone stopped chewing. A fork tapped a plate and nobody laughed it off. One of the servers froze with a tray halfway to our table like she'd just heard a car crash in her head. My dad's hand didn't move, but the tendons in his wrist stood up like cables. My mom's face went pale. My brother looked like he was about to jump out of his chair. Her parents were smiling, actually smiling, like she'd said something charming. And Preston, grinning ear to ear. This wasn't a slip-up. This was how they all saw me. Low class. The charity case who'd convinced their daughter to slum it. And Tinsley had just said it out loud in front of everyone. I sat there for maybe 5 seconds. Felt like an hour. Then I stood up, slowly, deliberately, took a sip of water because my mouth had gone dry. Low class? I said. Let it hang there. You're right. I'm not polished. Tinsley's smile faltered. She thought I was agreeing, going along with it like I always did. I also don't cheat with roommates. Public record's public. Her face drained of color. Her mom gasped. Her dad's smile vanished. Someone at the back of the room said, "Oh my God," just loud enough to carry. Preston's face fell like his brain finally caught up to what just happened. Short, clean, unarguable, and it implied I had more if they wanted to keep going. I set my water glass down. Enjoy your forks. Then I turned to my parents. Mom, Dad, let's go. I walked out of that restaurant with my entire family and Cormac right behind me. Didn't look back. Could hear Tinsley calling my name, something between a shout and a sob, but I kept walking. Through the lobby, past the valet stand, out into the parking lot where the air finally felt breathable. Through the restaurant window, I could see chaos unfolding inside. Tinsley's mom fanning herself, her dad on the phone, probably calling their attorney out of habit. Tinsley frozen at the table, Preston trying to leave without being noticed. And Tinsley's cousin still had her phone out, still recording. Good. Let them all marinate in that. I got home around 10 p.m., sat on my couch for about 20 minutes in complete silence. My phone was blowing up, but I'd put it on silent before I even left the parking lot. Then I got to work. I called the wedding planner at 11 p.m., left a voicemail because she didn't answer. Hi, this is Mason. The wedding's canceled. I'll handle cancellations for my vendors. Please send me a breakdown of what I owe. Thanks. Professional, efficient, no emotion. Next, I texted Cormac. Wedding's off. I'll explain later. Can you let the groomsmen know? His response came back in about 30 seconds. Holy cow. You okay? Need me to come over? I'm good. Talk tomorrow. Then I went to bed. Slept like a rock, which surprised me. I thought I'd be up all night spiraling. Instead, I was out within minutes. Guess my brain knew it had made the right call. Woke up to 94 missed calls and roughly 180 text messages. I made coffee, sat down at my kitchen table, and started going through them methodically, like sorting through work emails. Detached. Tinsley. 38 texts. Started with "baby, please call me" and escalated through "you're being dramatic" to "how could you humiliate me like that?" The lack of self-awareness was almost impressive. Her mother. 15 texts about how I'd ruined the dinner and owed them an apology. Apparently, walking out after being publicly insulted was the real offense here. Her father. 1 text. We need to discuss this like adults. Call me. Translation. I need to bully you into compliance, and this works better by phone. I blocked Tinsley's number, then her mom's, then her dad's, then her sister's. Felt like removing tumors. The wedding planner called at 9 a.m. sharp. I got your voicemail, she said carefully. I need to confirm you're canceling. The day before the wedding. That's correct. Long pause. Okay, so here's your breakdown. She started listing vendors. I did the math while she talked. I was looking at losing about $19,000. Money I'd been saving for 2.5 years. Birthday money, overtime pay, every spare dollar I could find. But here's the thing. I'd rather lose $19,000 than spend 50 years married to someone who thought I was beneath her. That's the kind of math that actually matters. The rings were a whole thing. I'd bought her engagement ring myself. $5,800 at a local jeweler. Tinsley had taken it off and left it on the table during the chaos. Trent doubled back after we'd reached the parking lot and grabbed it before her family could claim it. I drove to the jeweler that afternoon, expecting store credit. I can do 60%, he said, turning the ring over in his hands. Market's soft right now. Custom settings don't resell well. 60%? I bought this 8 months ago, and you're returning it 8 months later under circumstances that suggest you need the money fast. He shrugged. Supply and demand. Over $2,000 just gone because some guy knew I was desperate. Fine, I said. What choice did I have? Next problem, housing. I'd given my landlord 60-day notice back in March because I was supposed to move into Tinsley's condo after the wedding. Had about 3 weeks left on my lease. I called him up. Hey, any chance that notice is reversible? Long pause. Man, I wish you'd called yesterday. The new couple signed this morning. I ended up in a smaller unit across town. Same landlord, different building. Worse location, older fixtures, and more per month because it was all he had available on short notice. Plus a rush application, plus a new security deposit because my old one was already allocated to the transition. The apartment smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes for the first 3 weeks. The hot water took forever to kick in. But it was mine, and nobody in that building looked at me like I was a project they were working on. Another couple grand I hadn't budgeted for. The hits kept coming. Tinsley and I had opened a joint account 3 months ago. I'd put in $18,000. She'd put in $6,000. I called my bank, withdrew my $18,000, left her $6,000, and opened a new account at a completely different bank. Clean break. Day 3, her father called from a different number. I didn't recognize it, so I answered. "We need to discuss the financial obligations here," he said. No greeting. Straight to business. "I'm handling my vendors. You handle yours. The venue upgrade is non-refundable. That's $22,000. The orchestra cancellation fee is $8,000. The photographer's full fee is $6,500 since they'd already blocked the date. Your decision caused those losses. My decision? Your daughter publicly humiliated me. Funny how you're skipping that part. She made a poor choice of words. She's upset. We can work this out. I don't need anything except to not marry someone who thinks I'm beneath her." Don't be ridiculous. She doesn't think that. She literally said it in front of both our families while smiling. His voice got tight. "You're making a massive mistake. Do you understand what kind of life she could have given you?" And there it was, the real issue. They thought they were doing me a favor, lifting me up. I don't want a life someone gives me because they think they're doing charity work. I want a partner. She's not that. "You owe us $36,500. Sue me if you want. Should be a fun deposition." I hung up and blocked that number too. Day 5, a formal letter arrived, hand-delivered by courier, from their family attorney. It demanded $42,000 within 30 days. Emotional distress, reputational harm, financial losses. My lawyer's response: "This is intimidation dressed up as legal action. They have no case." 2 days later, he sent them a letter on his firm's letterhead that made their demand look like the legal equivalent of a toddler tantrum. That bought me about a week of silence. Then her father tried a different angle. He showed up at my parents' house, just walked up to the door on a Sunday afternoon. My dad answered, "Sir, I think we need to have a conversation about your son's behavior." My dad, who's about 5 feet 9 inches and built like a fire hydrant, looked up at this 6'2" real estate developer in his tailored coat and said, "My son's behavior was appropriate. Your daughter's wasn't. Get off my property. This doesn't have to be adversarial. We're reasonable people. The arrangement is you leave now." My mom appeared behind Dad with her phone in her hand. "I've already called the police. They'll be here in about 3 minutes. He left. The money pressure wasn't working, so they tried something nastier, making my actual life miserable. It started small, petty, almost funny. My phone started blowing up with calls from military recruiters, Army, Navy, Marines. All of them had my name, my number, and notes saying I was extremely interested. Please contact ASAP. Someone had submitted my info to every branch's recruitment database. I got 6 calls the first day, 8 the second. One recruiter left a voicemail at 6 a.m. asking if I was ready to serve my country. Had to individually call each branch and get removed from their lists. Annoying? Yes. Criminal? Borderline. Mostly just sad. Then, it escalated. Week 2, random people started showing up at my apartment. Different guys, different times of day, all asking about the free 65-inch TV listed on Facebook Marketplace. First guy seemed confused when I told him there was no TV. Second guy got irritated. Third guy showed me his phone. There it was. A Marketplace post with a photo of a nice Samsung, my apartment complex address, and instructions to just knock. He's expecting you. The listing was under a fake account, but the address was real. My address. I installed a doorbell camera that night. Over the next week, I counted 14 different people showing up at various hours. Some knocked politely. Some banged on the door. One guy came back twice, convinced I was hiding the TV. I didn't open the door to any of them. Just let the camera roll and screenshot everything. Filed a police report on day 3. The officer was sympathetic, but realistic. We see this in bad breakups. Hard to prove who posted it, unless they're stupid enough to use their real account. I sent my lawyer the doorbell footage, the screenshots, the police report number. His response: "This is harassment, possibly stalking. Keep documenting. They're building our case for us." Then, a concerned citizen email went to one of our biggest commercial clients, suggesting they might want to verify the character of contractors working on their properties. My boss showed it to me. We laughed about it, but I could tell it made him nervous. I started keeping records of everything. Every contact attempt, every blocked number, every piece of mail, every random stranger at my door. Physical backup in a fireproof safe. Digital backup in the cloud. The rumor campaign started around the same time. Tinsley's sister Piper reached out to mutual friends, just checking in conversations that always circled back to how worried she was about my mental state. Then Tinsley showed up at one of my job sites with lunch. She walked right past the security checkpoint like she owned the place, carrying a brown bag from my favorite sandwich shop and 2 iced coffees. Smiled at my foreman like they were old friends. Waved at the crew. "Hey babe, thought you might be hungry." She held up the bag like a peace offering. "Got your usual. Turkey club, extra pickles, no tomato." My foreman was staring. 2 other guys from the crew had stopped working. I looked at her for a long moment. "We're not together. The wedding's off. You called me low class in front of our families. Remember that part?" Her smile didn't waver. "You're still upset. I get it. But we can work through this. Couples fight. We're not a couple." "Mason, you're being dramatic. Just take the sandwich and we can talk later. I was thinking we could reschedule for October. The venue has availability." She said it like she was discussing dinner plans, like the last few weeks of chaos hadn't happened, like the $42,000 demand letter her family's attorney sent didn't exist. Full delusion or full manipulation, couldn't tell the difference anymore. "I need you to leave." I drove all the way here, still smiling. "At least eat something. You always get cranky when you skip lunch." I turned to my foreman. "Call the cops. She's trespassing." Her smile finally cracked. "You're going to have me arrested? For bringing you lunch? For showing up at my workplace uninvited after your family tried to destroy my entire life?" "Yeah. Leave now or wait for the officers. Your choice." She left, but not before loudly telling anyone who'd listen that I was clearly having some kind of breakdown, and she was just worried about him. Later that night, Piper's friend posted that Tinsley had tried to bring him a sweet romantic gesture, and I'd threatened to have her arrested for caring. The narrative spinners were working overtime. I filed for a restraining order the very next morning. My lawyer had been suggesting it since the marketplace stunt. Tinsley showing up at my job, playing concerned girlfriend for an audience, was the last straw. The hearing was 2 weeks later. I brought the doorbell cam footage, the marketplace screenshots, the police report, documentation of 14 strangers at my door, and a written statement from my foreman about her showing up uninvited. Her attorney tried to frame it as a miscommunication between people who still care about each other. The judge granted a temporary order. No contact, no approaching my residence or workplace, no third-party contact through family members. 6 months minimum. Tinsley cried in the courtroom. Her attorney tried to comfort her. I felt nothing. I screenshotted the order anyway. At this point, it was muscle memory. About that video from the rehearsal dinner. Tinsley's cousin's wedding week montage. It captured everything. My line, the stunned silence, the chaos after. It was supposed to stay in the family group chat. Humans have the self-control of toddlers with scissors. Within 3 days, it was making rounds at the country club. By week 2, someone posted it to a relationship drama subreddit. Rich people accidentally documented their own mess. Week 6, they went nuclear. A process server showed up with a lawsuit. Her father was suing me for $67,000 in damages. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Breach of implied contract. Tortious interference with family relationships. I called my lawyer. Can they win? No. They're trying to bury you in legal fees until you settle. How much up front? $3,500 retainer. That wiped out most of what I had left. The master electrician exam I'd paid for? Had to defer it. Next available date was 5 months out. File it, I said, and add everything. The marketplace doxing, the doorbell footage, the restraining order, her showing up at my job, all of it. My lawyer smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. 3 weeks later, he filed a motion to dismiss and a motion for sanctions. 27 pages showing a pattern of harassment. The fake marketplace listing. 14 strangers on doorbell cam. The restraining order hearing transcript. A timeline that made their behavior look exactly like what it was. Coordinated stalking. The judge wasn't buying opposing counsel's understandably emotional defense. Hard to call it isolated when there's video evidence of random men banging on someone's door at 11 p.m. demanding a TV that doesn't exist. 2 days before the sanctions hearing, their attorney dismissed the case without prejudice. Legal speak for, "We want to come back later if we feel like it." My lawyer told the judge we weren't done. You don't get to weaponize the court system like a country club membership perk and walk away clean. The judge agreed, partial sanctions granted. Her father got ordered to pay $6,200 toward my fees. Didn't cover everything. I still ate about $2,000, but that wasn't the point. But here's what mattered more than the money. The judge's comment in the order. The court is not a personal pressure tool for parties with resources to spare. That order became public record, searchable. Started showing up when people Googled her dad's name alongside his business listings. That's the kind of consequence rich circles actually fear, not morality. Search results. 7 months later, I was doing okay. Not great. Okay. Work was steady. The client email thing blew over once my boss realized it was personal drama, not a real concern. The master electrician exam I deferred, finally took it in month 7. Passed. The raise bumped me to $86,000. I'd started seeing someone, a woman named Renata I met at my buddy's birthday party, physical therapist. When I said electrician, she said, "That's awesome, my dad was a plumber." No nose wrinkle. No, that's so practical. Just normal conversation. When I mentioned I fix my own car, she asked if I could teach her to change her own oil. Third date, we did exactly that in my apartment parking lot. She got grease on her jeans and laughed about it. Told her the whole story on our 4th date. Her response, "Your ex sounds exhausting. Also, her family sounds like they peaked in high school. No games, no hidden judgments, no correcting my pronunciation, just normal." As for Tinsley's family, the fallout was harder to see. The court sanctions were public record. A few people in their circle noticed. The video had made rounds. Country club gossip spreads fast when there's real drama. Her dad's foundation held their annual gala about 3 months later. Attendance was reportedly lower than usual. Could have been coincidence. Could have been some donors didn't want to be photographed next to the court is not a personal pressure tool guy. I heard Piper got a talking to from her firm about the phone calls to my employer. Couldn't confirm it. Someone told me the foundation lost a major donor. Something about a woman at the rehearsal dinner mentioning it to her husband, who sat on another nonprofit board with Tinsley's mom. The last time I saw her father was about 8 months after the rehearsal dinner. I was at the county clerk's office picking up permit paperwork for a job. Walked out of the building and almost ran directly into him. He was coming out of the zoning appeals office. I'd heard his big mixed-use development, the Legacy Project, was having serious delays, permit issues, funding problems. A project partner had raised reputation concerns after doing basic due diligence, the kind that involves typing someone's name into Google. Whether the court sanctions and search results had anything to do with that, I don't know. Rich guys have complicated deals. Might be related, might not. Either way, not my problem. We both froze. He looked tired, older now, the tailored coat hanging off him, the boardroom confidence dimmer. "Mason," he said finally. "Sir." Silence. A woman walked past us with a stack of folders. "This didn't have to go this far," he said. I almost laughed. No, it didn't. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else. Then he just shook his head and walked past me. That was it. No big speech, no final devastating line. Just two guys who almost ended up related, standing there with nothing to say. I stood there for a minute, watching him walk away. He got into his car, still a Mercedes, still expensive, still trying too hard, and drove off without looking back. I got in my truck and drove to work. I had a job in the morning, a new girlfriend who didn't flinch at hot sauce, a life that was actually mine. That was enough closure for me. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.